Kia ora e te whānau. Ngā mihi mahana kia koutou katoa hoki. Welcome again to this reflection on the gospel that we have today. The lectionary also reminds us to remember John and Charles Wesley today, two fantastic English saints who had a lot of influence on John Smith, a significant leader in God Squad. And that influence has fed down into some of the ways we operate and some of the way we see our role in the world. John Wesley apparently rode 250,000 miles on horseback around England, preaching in fields, reaching over social barriers to love people and express the love of God. His brother Charles was a prolific hymn and songwriter, possibly writing thousands of inspirational songs and hymns which many churches still sing today. Truly, they were inspirational people in their time. As we continue our journey through Lent to Easter, we find Jesus again on the road with his disciples, on the road as John Wesley spent so much of his life. He's moving towards his destiny in Jerusalem, but his disciples are still not grasping a full understanding of what he is about and what he will be doing shortly. Maybe we too are like that, still growing in our understanding of what Jesus is about for us today. Like the disciples discover today, sometimes it can be quite shocking and hard to walk on the road with Jesus. The text we have today is Matthew chapter 20 verses 17 to 28. There's an almost identical text in Mark and a very similar but slightly different passage in Luke, expressing the same ideas in today's passage. Now, despite Jesus explicitly saying that he was going to Jerusalem to die, to be executed by the elite, two of the lead disciples, James and John, somehow think that Jesus is going to usher in a new form of government, and if they can position themselves well, they might even get top cabinet posts, maybe vice president or foreign minister. Of course we can drink the cup you're going to drink. Of course we can be baptized like you, they say. No problem. They clearly do not get what Jesus is on about or about to do. Once the other disciples hear of this late night clandestine encounter, this meeting with Jesus, they of course are very indignant and angry. This secret grasp for power and position causes division amongst the disciples and upsets the ranks. And this sort of carry on still affects our communities today. On seeing this, Jesus just rolls his eyes. Politics again, here we go. So he calls the disciples over and speaks with them in a very similar way that Samuel probably would have when he addressed the elders of Israel back when they wanted a king. Here we go again, thinks Jesus. My disciples are duped by power. He says, you know how the Gentile rulers lord it over people, how they tyrannize and dominate. It must not be like that among you, he says. And by extension, it must not be like that among us, his followers today. There's also a bit of a wordplay going on here by Jesus in Matthew. James and John did not know what they were asking, but they did know what power does to people. They experienced it daily in the environment that they lived in. Despite good intentions, often we still end up with domination, cover-ups and coercion for people to maintain that privileged place of power that they may inhabit. And Jesus goes on to really labour the point, to make it clear that great people in his kingdom serve, are slaves and lay their lives down for the least among us. We don't need a title or a badge to live like that. As we continue through Lent, the ongoing call seems to be that we give up our lust for power, that we let go of our desire for dominance and position, that we relinquish our quest for control and maybe our illusions of grandeur. Put those things down and pick up a tea towel, maybe a spade or a spanner, a listening heart and an attitude of service to our neighbours. Did Jesus die in Jerusalem to forgive our sins of lust, power and greed, to sanctify us so that we could continue in that way? Or was it something completely different? Maybe he was modelling a way of non-violent compassion that leads us to live better, to love more, forgive those around us. A life that truly is good news is possible in the way of Jesus. Thankfully, James and John realised this in time, and we can too. It's never too late to begin again, and it's never too long to continue in this way. So be strong and courageous, friends, in the way of Jesus. May God give you peace on that road. Rangamārie kia koutou.